Hey, Jim. I have to fix the carburetor that I already fixed on my 51 Oldsmobile here. I rebuilt it recently. It's a Carter, and apparently I didn't understand how I was supposed to measure the float adjustment. And it felt like I was adjusting it too high at the time, but I was going by the measurement as I understood it, and it is too high because it now tends to flood a little bit periodically. So I need to take the carburetor back apart and reset my float level a little bit lower. And then after that, the car's running really good. It's all excellent. So today I want to jump into things that make usability of the car a little bit less than ideal. Like you see that tube hanging down. That's part of the ductwork that goes underneath the dash for the heater and the defroster and all of that, and it's just rotted away. So it's 2.5 inches in diameter. Just so happens that this is a shop vac hose, and it's the exact same 2.5 inch diameter. And I have a number of these left over from shop vacs that I have murdered over the years, so I would not feel bad one bit cutting one of these up and using it to replace my duct from under the dash. But the real problems that I want to get to straight away, and yes, that duct, I'll probably get to it while I'm doing what I'm doing here, but this does not work. That is the interior release. I have to reach out and let myself out so I have to keep the window down, which it's a window down kind of car. So I'm going to have to take off this door card and this whole frame assembly to get to it. So I'll be doing that soon. But the first thing I want to do is address this seat. This seat is so blown out. There's like a wire sticking out of it that goes, I think that's part of the spring from underneath, but it is just flat. You get in the car and sit down and you're sitting almost on the floor. The upholstery on it's in pretty good shape. Doesn't look like anyone really smoked in here very much. That's really the only bad spot I can see on here. Doesn't really have any other burn marks or anything, and I think it's nylon. Pretty sure this is original. So what I'm going to try to do, and this back is completely mashed down too. So what I'm going to try to do here is I am going to try to remove this bench seat, and I'm going to take it over here and put it up on a work table, and I'm going to see if there's any way that I can remove this upholstery, the fabric part of it, carefully without damaging anything, and then see what I can do about rebuilding this inner part. That wire sticking out tells me it's got bad spring issues. Maybe there's some way I can get in there and tie the springs back together and get the box spring section of this working better. And then it'd be really nice to re-stuff this with something that's a little better and more modern and more supportive. Like I'm thinking some higher quality foam and a little bit of Dacron on a polyester type wrap to soften the edges a bit on top. Anyway, that's what I'm going to try to do today to the front and the back of this. It may work, it may not. But I think my first steps are going to be, I'm going to start taking these screws off and take off this trim piece here. See if I can, well, it feels like there might be a fastener underneath to get this little handle off, so I can get this trim piece off. Then I can look underneath and see what kind of fasteners there are. Well, before I go too much further, I decided to go ahead and consult my book. And in the very back at the 1951 Appendix 22102, we have front seat assembly. The front seat assembly. It says here that the assembly can be removed by taking only 2 seat adjustment floor pan bolts at the rear of both seat adjuster frames. So only 2 bolts, and the whole front seat assembly should lift away. Let's have a look. Okay, so now look down at the end here, and you can actually see a lot of foam rubber there that's been bailing out from the seat, and there's some springs under there that we should be able to make this better. But that bolt, I need a little better lighting. That bolt's got to be right back in here somewhere. Oh, there it is right there, right at the end of my finger. There she is. All right, so I'm going to put a little penetrating oil on there and hope that it will loosen up and I can get it out without any great problem. And I'll do the same on that side over there. And then this whole seat should be able to come out, and then I can disassemble it from the comfort of my work table. Turns out there are 2 bolts. There we go. You can see the hole where I've taken one of them out right there on the left, and there's the second one on the right. So I'm going to get that. They're 1/2 inch. Now on the driver's side, when I pull this all back and have a look, there, I haven't done anything on this side yet. You can see the one on the right, it's missing. The one on the left is still there, so really doesn't look like there's been one in there for an awfully long time. Got my light doing that? Yeah, I don't think my camera likes my LED flashlight. Anyway, so one of them is missing. I'll see about replacing that one when I go to put this back together. So let me pull those the rest of the way out. All right, well, she's all loose. Ready to come out. So for my next trick, figure out how to get this heavy beast out of here without wrecking anything and get it over here onto this table where we're going to make it so much better. Or you get smart and you ask your beautiful wife Shannon to help pull the seat out and put it up on the table. So we get inside here, like we saw before, all that, that's just pieces of dried foam rubber that's fallen out of the bottom of the seat. I'll vacuum all that out, and I don't know if this is a really original carpet. It kind of, at first I thought it was, but now I'm starting to think it might not be. I'm looking at this like footpad thing, and it does not look like a factory installed footpad. It looks kind of amateurishly done. So this might have been added to the factory, or maybe it's covering where the original thing had worn through. I don't know. I guess I can pull the carpet out and see. But another place that makes me suspicious is the way that it fits here around this B-pillar. That doesn't seem like a factory. It seems to me like this would have been fitted around this instead of just flopped over it, or this would have been installed on top of the carpet. I don't know. Hold on. Okay, that's the other side. I don't know. That's where I start getting suspicious about this being original. So maybe they just replaced the carpet. I don't know. Tell me what you think. Could this possibly be 70-plus-year-old carpet? Nah, can't be. I think the seat is probably 70 years old. So let's dig into that seat. I know the traditional way to do this, or maybe we could call it the redneck way. I can say that. I'm in South Carolina. you would get a furniture pad or a furniture blanket or something like that and fold it up until when you got in, it would take up the space where the rest of your seat should be. Oh boy, maybe that's why this seat still looks pretty good. Maybe somebody actually used a seat cover with something stuffed under it. But we're not going to do that today. We're going to get into this voodoo called upholstery here. And I know most car guys, they'll tear their engine apart. They'll tear their transmission apart. But when it comes time to tear their seats apart or have to sew something, usually they'll send it to an upholstery shop. And I don't blame them, because they want it done right. But we're going to try and do this today, right here, and just make it better than it was. So, first off, this does not have a fastener underneath. It has a rivet right there. So I'm going to have to drill out that rivet and then find my rivet gun to reinstall it later. And then I am going to now really start taking off all of the screws that I can find. And right here, that might just be screwed onto the side of the seat. That's kind of neat. And then I will lay it over on its back and have a look at how the upholstery is attached. You know what? I'm going to lay it on its back before I take off any of the screws. Well, what we can see here is we have the S-spring, wavy spring configuration. And it looks like the wire that's sticking out over here really far used to go all the way across, because I can see other wires here. Like right here's a little thin one, and it looks like they're supposed to be sort of attached into this spring situation, but it looks like it's just one layer of these springs kind of arched up. So in order to take this upholstery off, it looks like it's held on with these wire clips, and they're called hog rings. And the only way to take them off is I'll just come in with some side cutters or something and snip each one and carefully remove it without cutting the fabric. And then I will, of course, have to take all of this trim off so I can get around the sides and release the bottom, because it's just kind of been pulled on by hand, and then the upholsterer clips it on wherever he needs to make it feel tight and be nice up on the top here. So we can undo all those, and it's the same back here. We have this fabric hog ring connected to the springs. So I'll just release all of those hog rings, and then it looks like there's a pinch thing screwed on there. So anyway, I'm sure I'll find out more as I remove this stuff. But okay, that's good to know. So I can go ahead and start removing all of the trim. I removed the screws. They just went into the end of this arm here. And then the one from the back side here. And then I was able to kind of peel this thing off. But look at this thing. It's made out of metal. It's solid metal that's been covered in Naugahyde. Anyway, it's in pretty good shape. I'm going to attempt to clean this a little bit before I put it back on, but that's not going to be for quite some time. Anyway, the way I'm taking these hog rings off is I will take the hog ring and stand it up where I have a better chance of getting my cutter in without getting fabric, and then give her a snap. All right. Like that. And off it comes. And you can see that every place there's a hog ring, they have a special little hoop in the frame. So remember that when we're going to put this back together. I need to remember that, because that's where I need to attach this stuff back to after we have our new stuffing. I have flipped her upside down. And I removed a screw from here, one in the center and another one over there that matches this. And I look down inside, and it doesn't really look like there's anything else attaching it. If I can remember how to operate my flashlight, there we go. So I don't really see anything else in there. It looks like it wiggles. So I also removed this ashtray. There was just 2 screws here. I'm not sure if you have to do that or not. And then I'm going to drill out this rivet here, and that should make it so I can remove this trim piece, and then I should be able to remove this entire back panel. And then I'll have access to everything in the back. After everything else was disconnected, then I set it back upright, and then this whole back panel has to slide down. There are these little clips here that catch up underneath here. So everything's undone. Pull the bottom out a little, give her a wiggle, and off she comes. Ooh, look at that. All right, it's going to be the same deal on the back here. All these hog rings, there and there, all along, they all have to be cut. Careful not to cut the fabric, as usual. And I had this thought, where am I going to source all of this stuff? I'm going to need foam rubber, I'm going to need the polyester, and where am I going to source this? Upholstery, I'm out in the country, order from Amazon. And then I had this thought, wait, why can't I use old cushions from try to find a high quality sofa and repurpose some of the parts from the sofa to rebuild my seat. And I just happened to find a Lazy Boy sofa for free. So this is one of the cushions. I'm looking her over, and without taking this apart at all yet, we'll have to see when I get it all apart, but I'm thinking I can maybe even split this like here and be able to use the top and the bottom on my seat. So basically just slice it in half that way. And then it's already got a nice shape on the edges. They're all nice and shaped by this factory, so it'll give it a nice little waterfall shape. Beautiful. So that's what I'm going to try to do. So we're going to rebuild this vintage seat for free, not counting labor. I have cut the rest of the hog rings that I can see along the bottom and the back edge here. So now I think I'm going to try to see if I can maybe work this back fabric up and over, and then peel it away and lay it here, because I think it's still going to be attached under here somehow. And to stay focused on what I'm doing here, what I'm really trying to do is make it where the seat has stuffing in the back again, and I don't want it to be hugely overstuffed or anything, but I want it to be, it should be flat. There shouldn't be these rump sprung areas. It should just be relatively flat. The same with down here, and this shouldn't be all loose. This should be standing up fairly proud and fairly tight, and you shouldn't be like sitting on the floor. We're going to want it to sit up nice and proud, where I'm going to end up, when I sit in here, I'm going to be probably, I'll bet I'll be 4 to 6 inches higher up in my ending position than I was originally, because it was hard to see over the dashboard, and I'm well over 6 feet tall. All right, so now that I have it, the top peeled back anyway, you can see there's a welt that runs along the center of the back there, and that welt is connected through hog rings into the rest of this. So I'm looking at how this is built, and it's got very thin, like maybe quarter-inch foam that still seems to be in fairly decent shape. And that foam, really, all it does is provide a little bit of shape here for these channels. So down here, we really don't have any of that. But it's going to still have the same super thin quarter-inch foam all down the bottom here. So there's really nothing I can do short of really taking this apart and completely replacing and re-sewing all of this. And I don't really want to do that. So this cotton batting looks fairly good. I'm only seeing a problem with the wave. So come back around here. Let's see if we can do anything about that. And I start looking at the way that the springs all work. Yeah. Okay, there. Oh, looks good. And then, oh, wait a minute. What about this one? So all the springs are even, and wait, where'd this one go? So, and this is right inside where the dent is. I think this spring is either broken or has somehow gotten tangled. Let me see if I can figure out why this spring is collapsed like this. Well, the only thing that I can see here that's different, and nobody else has, is this clip right here that is holding these together. So I'm going to pinch them together and remove this clip and see. I mean, that dent seems, kind of dumb. Obviously, certainly seems like it was here from the factory if this is what's causing the dent. But I can put it back if it seems like I should. Hold on. I pulled that clip out and it's spraying out a lot, and the dent is gone. Now, I'm probably going to be told that that dent was there on purpose, and it just didn't make sense. Why was that dent there? So, okay, now it doesn't look like it's so butt sprung or back sprung in this case. So I wonder if I can put something in here that will make it a tiny bit firmer. Like maybe, I don't know what I can do here to make this a little bit firmer. I'll have to think about that. All right, I've been thinking, how am I going to do this using my Lazy Boy parts? And what I've decided to try is I have the stuffing here from a back cushion. These are back cushions that are permanently attached, well, permanently until I get my pocket knife out, to the back of the sofa that this seat cushion came from. So they're fairly large. And what I'm thinking about doing here is I'm going to dig out my sewing machine, and I'm not sure how big I'm going to make them yet, but I'm going to sew lengths here where I'll sew 2 stitch side by side, but far enough apart where I can cut it with scissors, and that way I'll have like tubes of this wonderful squishy polyester stuff. It's great. So with those tubes, I'm hoping to be able to somehow feed them in strategic areas to help provide additional squishy friction here and make this just a tiny bit firmer. That's my plan, and we'll see how it works out. My plan here is I'm going to sew, if I can, right up the center of this pillow 2 times. and then take my shears and cut it in two. And then I will sew down the center of the two pieces I have left, 2 times each, and cut those in half. And when I have 4 pieces here, I'll come back up here and see if I can start fitting those in to the cavities in the back here, and see if they have to be bigger or smaller or what have you. After some time spent recommissioning the old battleship of a sewing machine, it's a Juki, a walking foot, I ended up discovering that you cannot just sew willy-nilly down the pillow insert. I ended up cutting the end off and pulling all the stuffing out and then making these tubes. So as you can see, I've got one of them worked into here. It's for more of a lumbar area, and it only is covering about half so far. And then I'm going to put this smaller one up into the top here if I can, but you can already see quite a difference. At least I can. I mean, this side is, and of course, this is not pulled tight over the top or anything. So this is all still just laying up here. But if we're just going to look at the shape of the back here, where I put this stuffing in, nice. And where I haven't, it's way squishier. So I think this is a really good improvement. So I'm going to go ahead and do it on both sides and get this back part wrapped up as far as the restuffing goes, because that's all I'm going to do back here. And then we're going to tackle this bad boy, the seat. Worked out pretty well. So what's going to happen here is when it comes time to put this all back on and like start pulling this this side fabric back around and hog rigging it to this frame, I'm going to use a bunch of this extra stuffing, the same stuff that is captured inside these tubes, and I'm going to cram a bunch of it in all of these open spaces. So all of this area where it feels kind of just easy to collapse, more support. And I'll fill all the voids down there. I'll fill all the voids here, everything up top. Basically, I'm just going to stuff a bunch of that stuff everywhere in here. And that should help firm it up a lot too. But now we're going to go to the main event here. Let's see what we have under here. I have not pulled this up before. We're seeing it at the same time. Oh, okay. Oh, there we go. That's the problem. Wow, that's foam rubber. Wow, look at that foam rubber. There's nothing rubber about it. It's just totally squished and cooked. Okay, that's what we came here to do something about. I'm going to use spring clips or something to keep this seat fabric all the way up here so it doesn't keep falling down. This stuff is attached to the framework back here down at the bottom, and I'm going to try to do this without actually taking off this rear connection for this material. I might not be able to accomplish it that way, but that's what I'm going to try first. So I'll clip this all up, and then this has a nice layer of like probably a cotton batting of some kind. So I'm going to see if I can lift out this cotton batting in somewhat one piece. If I can't, then that's okay, because I will use some polyester wrap like on the cushion there anyway. But I'm going to try to recover this cotton batting if I can, because it's in really pretty good condition. And then, of course, I got to get my vacuum and go around here and clean up all of this crazy, rotten old foam rubber. Wow. That is what 72-year-old foam rubber looks like. There's your problem. Foam no more. All right, we can fix this. I'm going to go ahead and finish removing this cotton batting here that seems to be able to come off all in one piece, no problem. And then I'll figure out how to get this mess of nastiness out of here, because that stuff's all just totally garbage. It may be best if I just take this whole bottom piece off. I don't know. I'm going to have to explore that. But all of this has got to go, and then we will be introducing it to Hello Lazy Boy. Well, I'm just trying to get this top layer where the old foam is glued up. And a lot of places there's threads that run through it, which I'm just sort of pulling up as we're going to add a whole new layer on top. But I'm trying to just get as much of this foam rubber debris, and we'll trash that and start over. I have reassessed. As you can see, I have taken off everything that was on here. I got rid of that original piece of cotton batting up there that had all the stuff stuck to it. I just decided it was going to be too hard to control it all with all the different weird layers of stuff. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm down to just the springs. I'm going to go through and inspect the springs and make sure everything is tied together the way it's supposed to be. And it all feels fairly even except for back here. I'm going to have to do something. That's right where you get in and sit down. So I'm sure there's something wrong there. And then I'm going to get a piece of heavy canvas. And I'm going to cut a piece of canvas. And I'm going to take hog rings and I'm going to tie all of this together with my base layer of canvas. Then I have taken one of my seat cushions from my Lazy Boy sofa, and I split the top off of it. It was conveniently already bits and pieces of foam just glued together a little bit here and there. So I was able to cut this big old slice off, which is actually 2 layers of foam here, but it should be about the right thickness. And the way I did that with this little saw, and the trick to it is you got to spray this saw blade with silicone. If you spray it real good with silicone, let it dry, then it just glides right through the foam rubber. Otherwise, can't cut it. So I'm thinking after the canvas is down, this slice off of the Lazy Boy, I'll cut it to where it's the proper depth, but then we have this nice front edge here that I can make a nice little waterfall over the front there. I think this will work out pretty good. This is the roll of canvas I'm going to use, and this is some pretty heavy stuff. I mean, this is not light. This is sometimes known as cotton duck. Yes, D-U-C-K. And actually, that is why there is such a thing as duct tape. I think it was World War II, maybe. They used this sort of heavy cotton material and put adhesive on the other side, and it was cotton duct tape. So yes, a lot of people think it's duct, D-U-C-T. And a lot of people use it to tape up their ducts, so you could call it either one, but it is duct. Anyway, we're using this heavy stuff. And it's better if it's heavy because it's going to have to put up with a lot of messing around. So I also have decided I'm going to go ahead and stuff the back. Like I said before, I'm going to do that now, and I'm actually going to cut a piece of canvas to go against these springs inside here all the way over to here. So it'll be a solid slab of canvas right up against the back of these springs, and that'll accomplish also what these bags are trying to do, which is to keep all of our stuffing from just being squished out beyond the springs. So that'll give us a good barrier because I'll clip it on in a few places. Plus, it ties it all together and helps everything sort of, like an anti-sway bar. It all has to move a little bit instead of just the one section. I pinned the back up a little bit tighter so I could see exactly how far back these springs go. And it'll make it easier for me to get my new padding in here and my canvas layer. And before any of that happens, I start examining these springs. This is passenger side, and it feels fine. Everything is good. It's pretty much the way it should be. It could stand to be a little firmer. I might do something about that. Looks like these are, I'm not sure what those are. This looks like it's a limiter that only lets it go up so high. Okay, and I look at the rest of these springs, and they all look pretty good. And then we get around to this side here, the driver's side, where you would sink clear down on it. And it looks to me like the real problem is all of this. I mean, obviously that foam was bad, but then it's really bad over here because all of this is rotted away and makes it where none of these springs are tied together anymore. And then it's flattened out. And oh, there we go, right there. The wire is broken right there. That's supposed to be one piece. So I think if we repair that, and if we do anything else to firm this up, I might stick a little bit of extra foam in here or something. We'll have to see. But for my next trick, I'm going to have to fix this broken. I can't weld it because I don't think heating it up would help its spring strength much. I have an idea. No, I still have to get over here and vacuum, clean all this garbage out. So what I'm going to do here is, I know I said I couldn't weld it, but I didn't say I couldn't use welding rod. So you can see I've experimented here and to see what would happen if I tied 3 wires together with a hog ring, and it's pretty good. So I bent a couple of pieces that match the shape here, and I'm going to use several hog rings, and I'll have one on the back, one on the front, and this broken one in the middle, and hopefully that will tie this all together. Kind of like, that famous rug that tied the room together. I don't know. All right, let me try and do this. It's going to take 2 hands. Well, it might not really look like it, but it is a pretty good repair. What I ended up doing is I have the 2 pieces of welding rod that are right here, right where the crack was, where the break was. And then I have another one, which is a long one, which goes clear up to here and runs all the way up to here. So hog rings like crazy, holding everything firmly, and there we have it. The back corner of this seat doesn't just collapse when you get in anymore. So, phew, fixed, nice. This limiter looks like it's popped off, so I'm gonna hog ring that back down where it's supposed to be. There is also this wire right here that I have already pulled back to match the position of the one on the passenger side. It's kind of a wire that's supposed to distribute entry and exit stresses, I think. So I've relocated back to where it's supposed to be, and then I will hog ring that in place. It doesn't seem like it's going to move again, but we'll have to see. I'll tie that down a little bit better. So now I'm going to do the canvas. And I was looking at how the factory did this, and they hog ringed this canvas not to this front edge, but back a little bit. And I'm wondering if that's because they didn't want you to feel, well, no, that's pretty rough. I'm going to do my canvas all the way to the edge, unless I change my mind. Anyway, fixed baby. I'm back on the back. So as you can see, I have filled in all the little voids and nooks and crannies and up underneath and clear over to the inside here of the end. And stuffed it pretty good with this polyester squishy stuff. And now I'm going to work this piece of canvas down along these springs. I'm going to work it along through behind here, and then I'm going to hog ring it to these openings. Here. Stretch it tight. Do the same thing over here. Then I'll trim it if I need to, which I will. And then I will start attaching it here and there to the actual springs. So, I mean, I'll attach it up here at the top, but then there'll be a few places where it actually is attached to these springs, I think. And that's what that looks like. You can see where I have done them evenly on the passenger side and in the center, and then I did them a little more densely where the driver sits, because this was very squishy before. So I just wanted to add a little bit of extra support back here. I trimmed, like I said, I stretched tight, trimmed those down. So I think my back is pretty good. So back to this part. So now I'm going to take another piece of canvas and I'm going to tuck it way back, all the way back underneath. And when I get it all the way back up under there, I'm going to hog ring it in the very back there. So I have it all the way out. And then I will hog ring it here and here and there, of course, like I did the piece on the back, where I'll have it tying all of these springs together to give us a lot more spread of the load. And then I will trim it. So let me do that. I'll be right back. Have her all tight now. Pretty good. Way back up in there. Bunch of hog rings. And now I'm starting to trim out this piece of my seat cushion from my Lazy Boy. So, like I said, there's only a couple of layers here. It's maybe 2 inches thick, plus the polyester top. And I've shoved it way back under there. Now I'm going to cut a second one here. I already have it actually cut, but it needs to be shortened so it can fit there. There will be a gap in the middle, and I'm going to fill it with the cutoffs. Let's see how that works. Well, thank you, Lazy Boy. Looks to me like all of this is going to stick down pretty nice. I will use a little bit of contact adhesive, not much, just a bit, to keep this from shifting around once it's down. Then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in a couple of areas here, along here, with some pieces of foam. Let me show you. Kind of like this. I filled all of these voids with foam, and all along here, stuck in pieces of foam. And that way, and also I didn't trim this back like I said I was going to. I've left it overhanging here by a couple of inches, and that way when my fabric gets pulled back over tight, it will wrap around the front and make it so we won't be able to feel that hard wire there when we're getting in here, because you could feel that wire plain as day before. No, you're not going to, and this is going to be quite a bit firmer, hopefully. And these are glued down now, so now I'm going to do a little trick here where I am going to spray some all-purpose silicone. It's a lubricant, and I'm going to spray lightly on the back side of the seat here, and I'm going to spray a little bit on top of my polyester, and that should make it where when I'm pulling the fabric down to tighten it up and hoggering it down here, it will be able to slide and find its level. And hopefully these spots here where I have overlapped, hopefully you won't be able to see them too much through the fabric. I'm going to look there as soon as I pull this down and start to cinch it down. If it seems like this is showing, then I'll come back before I actually hog ring it, and I'll trim where it overlaps and make it where it just butts together instead of having an overlap. I'm hoping a little bit of overlap isn't a problem, but I'll fix it if it is. Okay, I've got all of my pins pulled, I think. And time to come on back home, baby. Some of that, the old foam rubber is still stuck on the edge here. Okay, so I'm going to carefully pull this all back over and see if all of this stuff is going to fold down and fit. And then I'm not going to be shy about stuffing all of this as it comes over. Any place that I feel like I should, which is probably going to be everywhere, I'm going to stuff more of this squishy stuff in to just really give it a nice full filled out situation. I haven't clipped it down at all yet, but it looks like it's fitting pretty good. And now I can pull this back over the original shape here and see about re-stretching the back and getting that all hog ringed back. That attaches up into those slots here, and then got to do the same thing on the sides here, but she's going back together, and it's gonna look pretty good. It's gonna sit so much better. This is much firmer, and with having this broken part here fixed, oh yeah, you'll get in the car and you won't feel like you're just sitting on the floor. Nice. I still haven't clipped down any of this front yet. I've just been kind of trying to work it and make sure that it is running properly on the, and not canted one way or the other. As we recall, I never detached it from back here, so wherever it's going to sit, it's going to sit. If I had detached everything, then I would do it through measuring. I would find the exact center of everything and get one line that's perfectly centered and then do the whole thing that way. But since I have to work from whatever happened back here at the factory, I have to be a little more flexible and do it more by eye. But I'm going to do this back part first, I think, with the actual hog rings. I know I keep saying that, but I have decided to fill in between the springs on the side here with some foam as well to give this a lot more firmness. So I'm going to find the center, and I'm going to try to use the factory spots here. You can see where they have folded it and where it was originally hog ringed. And also underneath here, you can see where the factory has chalk lines or marker lines of some sort. So I'm going to make sure that this is going right back in its original spot. And that way everything should work out. And then let me get my hog rings going. Here's a spot where it can get a little bit tricky. I have started to hog ring the back panel back into place, but when I'm doing that, I'm trying to use the factory original holes from where that was in, and I can find the right spot here so I can line up right where it's supposed to be. And what I'm doing here is I'm pulling this fabric tighter as I go to make my attachments. So as you can see, when I pull it, it tightens up everything. So if you do this with uneven pulling, you'll end up with this welt here. This piping will have waves in it. You don't really want that. I think originally it just sort of does this slow, easy wave out towards the back like that. So we're going to try to... It's nice having the original holes because it makes it a little easier to get even tension across the whole thing. We're all buckled in here now. The back comes quite far forward on the sides here. So I'm hoping some of these puckers won't really show too badly, but everything's all clipped in. So now I'm going to start working on pulling this bottom piece down and starting to anchor it down here. And I will stuff more of that this loose polyester stuff in up under the corners and stuff all up underneath here a little bit, not too much, and then everything hog rings right to these loops. So I will fold this up, I'll find where the original hog ring holes are and line them up and pull them down and try to make it where the tension on here is going to be even if I just use the original holes all the way across. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to start out by seeing kind of how my pattern is laying here. I'm going to make sure that my corners are even, and I'm going to take the center. That's where I'm going to start. I'm going to find the center, and I'm going to find my original holes, and I'm going to take the center here and then work my way out to each side, trying to keep the tension on the fabric all nice and even as we put on our hog rings. I have just the first 3 hog rings on, and might be where you'd start to worry, because you look up here and you see all these waves, and then if you look at it from this perspective, you can see where there's a big wave here, and of course we're pulling everything down tighter, but you have to try to do it evenly. It is not possible to do this by just compressing it by hand and putting on a hog ring. So what I have decided to try is I'm going to put this 2x4 up here, and then I'm going to use this deep reach clamp, and I have two of them, and I will catch the framework here with the underside of the clamp, and I will compress the whole seat where I am able to then easily go along and hog ring each of the original positions, and I will be pulling the fabric to the left that way as I go. I won't be pulling real hard, but I will be pulling the fabric a bit to the left as I go. I have made a mistake. I should have put something between the seat and the 2x4. I don't think I'm going to cause any permanent damage here, but I have been able to do a few more of my hog rings, and when I relocate this, I will put an insulating piece in between. These wrinkles here that we're seeing from everywhere where the hog ring pulls, those are all going to come out when I do the side pull. So maybe I can show you here where when I pull from the side, a lot of that stuff is going to go away. Well, I've tied down around the corner here, and when I get down to this last side, I realized, oh, I still got this hole. This is where the spring was poking out. So I should have addressed this earlier, but I didn't. I can still do it now. The way I'm going to do this is I laminated two pieces of material together here. One is bridal satin and the other one is a microfiber like suede. And I'm going to, after this is dried just a little bit more, I'm going to slip it up behind here with another layer of glue, where I can glue this to the inside on the back here, and I will take this and push it all down, so there will be places where you'll be able to see my backing fabric where some of this stuff is going to be missing. And then I'm going to trim this hole a little bit once I see what it looks like sitting on my backing fabric, and I'll trim it real nice. And then I have snipped a little piece off of the bottom edge here. It's not going to be exactly, but after I clean it up, it should be pretty close, and I'll be able to cut little pieces off of this and fill in my little void here, and you'll still be able to see it, but it'll be much better than it is. This is the glue I'm using. Real deal tacky glue. It's made for fabrics. Dries clear. Yep. Almost looks like regular white glue, but it's a little different, I guess. I use the drying time of that repair to go over to my sink and clean all of these vinyl covered metal parts. This one is the one that fits over here. And I'm getting ready, as you can see, I've got it clamped down, and I'm getting ready to do the final tie down of the hog rings on the driver's side. Our patch looks pretty good. I'm going to wait till it's all done and all my parts are put back on, and then see if I need to do anything further. I can add more to it if I want it to be more invisible, but we'll have to see. I have been working on putting these metal parts back on, and I gotta tell you, it's not easy. Having this be completely restuffed makes all of this way tighter. So in order to get this lined up, as you can see, I've turned it upside down, but I would take one of these guys, and where they're mounting here, like over here, it's not on yet obviously, but I'm going to reach through the part, feel around until I can get into the hole here, and then force that thing over, and it'll make it easier for me to catch one of the other ones here. And without these little guys, there's no way you're going to ever be able to just manually push it in enough to where the holes line up again. All done. Came out pretty good. If you look for the hole, you can find it, of course, but most people would never notice that. I still have to get my rivet gun, put that handle back on, but everything else looks good. Body by Fisher, baby. That's how you restuff your front seat. That came out great. Can't wait to put it back in. As you can see, I'm already pulling the back seat out. I'm going to give it the same treatment. This thing will be good to go for another 72 years. Thanks for watching. See you next time.